A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to see.
You got f***ing grow, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast on this Thursday, January 26th of 2023. I am Paul Gallant. It's been an interesting last 24 hours. I went to the Houston Sports Awards, which is essentially a ripoff of the Oscars. It's a very fun event, though, and shout out to my friend Patty Smith, who's been putting this thing on for a couple of years now. Every single year it has gotten glitzier, more glamorous. It was very cool to see all of the Houston sports stars out there, specifically members of the Houston Astros who are getting rock star treatment. I really do hope that Houston sports fans are appreciating this moment, because that was the big thing that I took away, as a bunch of rich hoity-toities were essentially squealing like schoolgirls as Jose Altuve left with a trophy in his hand. Can I get a picture with you, Jose? All sorts of rich people who would probably look at me and say, why aren't you valeting my car? Why aren't you getting me a drink? Especially now that I got no beard. Jason83 says, wow, baby face Paul is back on twitch.tv/Gallant Says. Kyle Mulkey has a couple of points we'll get to in just a moment at youtube.com/Paul Gallant. You can also get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. However, I highly encourage you to check out the live version, because you can actually join the fun. I've got a question. I can't figure this one out, and I know I'm going to sound like I'm pandering. If you watch the intro to this show, you'll see an exchange that Pete Carroll and I had after the second and third round of the NFL draft back in 2020. Pete Carroll used to be a guest of the radio show that I did with Danny O'Neill in Seattle, Danny and Gallant. We would have him on after every single Seahawks game for 30 minutes at a time. I can't believe that we had the access to do that, just given the way sports radio seems to be going and the less and less access, specifically guys in the NFL, seem to be giving out. And we used to get 30 minutes a week with Pete Carroll. Sometimes with the Thursday night games, we talked to Pete Carroll essentially for an hour. And I know a lot of people have different impressions of Pete Carroll. I got to say that before I knew Pete Carroll, I did like him when he was head coach of the Patriots, but I thought he had some weird takes about 9/11, or at least questions asked about 9/11. But I sat down with him on a regular basis, and I'm not going to act like we were friends or anything like that, but I always felt he was remarkably warm, open, and just an all-around good hang, even when we were asking him annoying questions. And I really do miss speaking with the guy. And watching from afar, every single Sunday I have been watching the Houston Texans this year suck. I saw from afar and was very happy from afar to see the kind of season that the Seattle Seahawks put together. They had everyone thinking that they were going to suck this season, myself included. And honestly, anyone who thought that the Seahawks weren't going to have a tough year this year, I guess you could pat yourself on the back for being a super fan, but you were crazy to believe that it would happen. That said, Pete Carroll, John Schneider, that whole organization, and all the players that play for that team did an incredible job in the wake of Russell Wilson forcing one of the uglier divorces in recent NFL history. And I think the Seahawks did such a good job of staying classy throughout it, even though Russell Wilson was publicly bitching about how, Pete Carroll's holding me back through his agent, like an absolute puss. It was such pussy behavior by Russ that he couldn't put his name on it. Dude, just go full heel and be Aaron Rodgers. Just get it all out in the open. Your brand is not as impressive as you fucking think it is. It's not. What, nano bubbles? You're like a wannabe Tom Brady, but where are you relative to Tom Brady? You're nowhere close. Great. You're dating a former star of music. I guess she's still relevant. Cool. You aren't nearly as big of a deal as you make yourself out to be. It's okay to step on some toes to get what you want. Don't do it like an absolute pussy where you're saying, these are the list of teams that I would be okay being traded with if I were to be traded, but I don't want to be traded. I never wanted to be traded. That's a load of bullshit. The last 2 years in Seattle, god damn, I did such a turn on Russell Wilson. Anyway, they announced the finalists for the NFL Coach of the Year. And they are as follows. Nick Sirianni, who was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, who had the best record in the NFL over the past season. He's got to be there. You also saw that Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars, after the turnaround they had in the wake of Urban Meyer, was another Coach of the Year candidate. You have, and sorry, I'm thinking about some of these guys off the top of my head, Coaching of the Year candidates. I don't know why it's not in front of me. I thought it was in front of me with the tab that I had open. The other Coach of the Year candidates, Kyle Shanahan. Look, they've won a million games in a row with Brock Purdy under center. Brian Daboll, who found a way with the New York Giants to win as many games as they did, make the playoffs with Daniel Jones as his quarterback. Those four guys, I think, all belong. And I feel like you could definitely make a strong case for any of them over that of Pete Carroll to be Coach of the Year. That said, Sean McDermott, head coach of the Buffalo Bills, making it in over Pete Carroll is a load of bullshit. Bullshit. The Bills had the weight of the world on them expectations-wise going into the year. And while they were a juggernaut at some points during the year, I thought that they were a team that was marked by sloppiness and losing games that they probably shouldn't have. That was a team that I think, if you go back and look at all the games that they played, could have been 17-0. Just go back and look at some of the games that they lost. The game to the Vikings. The game against the Miami Dolphins. Was the other loss that they had to the New York Jets? Yeah, they had an impressive year, and maybe they would have had home field advantage if they played that game out against the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think they would have, based off of the playoff performance. But look, it's a regular season award. I don't think that the Bills quite lived up to the expectations that were set for them going into the year. So, Quandre Diggs, one of my favorites when I was in Seattle, tweeted this out about the Coach of the Year finalist. Man, I don't understand how Pete isn't a finalist. Talking about Pete Carroll. Not a top 5 coaching job with a team everybody expected to be sorry. Y'all killed me last year when I said Pete told me we're not rebuilding. We're trying to win now once I resigned. And he's right. And look, I think it's fair to go after a player and say, you're crazy. But players are supposed to believe what the coach is telling them. And Pete Carroll, in his relentless optimism, somehow convinced that team that with Geno Smith under center, they were going to be okay. And look, Geno Smith did have some nice moments during the 2021 season. So who would I be to say that it was completely impossible for what happened this past season to happen? But Pete Carroll 100% should be in the Coach of the Year running for what he was able to do with a team that found, the credit to John Schneider for this, who I think is a great GM, finding young starting tackles in the draft, finding a running back in Kenneth Walker who could step in for Rashad Penny, who we all think is a pretty good player, but he just unfortunately can't stay healthy, for getting Tariq Woolen at corner, who might be one of the best young corners in the league, just based off of what you got in year one. All of those players played at an A level. And you know what? If they don't make mistakes in the second half against San Francisco, there was a chance that they would have been playing in the divisional round of the playoffs. Who would have thought they'd even fucking make the playoffs, let alone win a game? Pete Carroll should be in there over Sean McDermott. And I know some people are going to think I'm pandering here, and I am to it a little bit of an extent. I miss talking about the Seattle Seahawks, to be perfectly honest. It's been a tough year for me football-wise. Football is my favorite sport. I've covered 2 teams on a daily basis in my life, the Houston Texans, who have largely been frustrating, and the Seattle Seahawks, who had some frustrating moments, but I very much appreciated my couple of years there up in the Pacific Northwest covering that team and talking to a fan base that cares a lot more about their team than Houston fans care about the Texans. And I understand it too. The Seahawks have actually been good. Some people were a little bit abrasive with me, acting like I don't know what I'm talking about. Sorry, I grew up watching the Patriots. I do. I probably know more about how a good team is supposed to operate than you do, but whatever. It's fine. You guys went to 2 Super Bowls back-to-back. The team I grew up rooting for went to 9 over a 20-year stretch. Yes, I am flexing a little bit, and I'm not going to mention Super Bowl 49 because that would be mean. Anyway, youtube.com/Paul Gallant. I asked why Pete Carroll isn't a finalist for NFL Coach of the Year. Kyle Mulkey on youtube.com/Paul Gallant said, because the NFL hates the Seahawks. Laughing emoji. I don't know about that. I don't know if they hate the Seahawks. Everyone said 1-17 this year and are now like, well, they were gone in the first round. Well, duh. Guaranteed they won't win any awards. And he's bringing up Hutch. Hutch is better than Woolen, is better than Gardner. Is that another cornerback that I'm unaware of? Sorry, the Hutch reference, I'm confused. No way they should give the Rookie of the Year award, says Kyle, to Sauce. Well, You know what? Let's take a look here. I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know the statistics. I know Tariq Woolen had a shit ton of interceptions year one. He had 6 interceptions. Let's take a look. Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner had 2. You know what? I think you got a case here. And it's more than just interceptions. Some guys are legit shutdown players who can erase an entire side of the field. But I think if we were to compare the Jets defense and the Seahawks defense, the Jets defense is a pretty damn good one. Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know why I was thinking Steve Hutchinson when you mentioned Hutch instead of Aiden Hutchinson. I should have known Hutch off the top of my head. Yeah, I think there's a strong case to be made that Tariq Woolen should be the Rookie of the Year. You're right about that. Let's take a look. Wait, who are the Rookie of the Year finalists? I guess I don't know. Defensive. See, this is what happens when you cover the Texans every day. You kind of just not as on top of the NFL as I would like to be this year. I talk about the NFL on the radio show. People get pissed off. I'm like, why? Why are you mad? This is what I know. This is the league I know, but maybe I don't know it. Maybe I don't know it as much as I used to do. Okay, well, hey. He's a finalist. Sauce Gardner, Aiden Hutchinson, Tariq Woolen. Okay, well, so he's got a chance. We'll see what the voters do. What did Aiden Hutchinson have? 9.5 sacks, 20th in the league. Sauce Gardner led the league in passes defended. Well, 20 passes defended, 2 interceptions. Tariq Woolen, 16 passes defended, 6 interceptions, 1 touchdown. He also forced 2 fumbles. Sadly, it's probably going to go to Sauce Gardner, and I hate to bring up East Coast bias, but it probably will. I think that Tariq Woolen, though, should definitely be thought of because Hutchinson, 2nd overall pick. Sauce Gardner, 4th overall pick. Tariq Woolen, 5th round pick. It should go to Woolen. Let's give the guys who were drafted a little bit later the bump. But what a year by Tariq Woolen, and you got to give Pete Carroll a lot of credit. The guy does a fucking great job with defensive backs. He always has. I mean, you just go back to the Legion of Boom days, and I know everyone thinks Richard Sherman, but just think about all the fuckers who were there that you thought were good when they were with the Seahawks. Jeremy Lane, Brandon Browner, looking behind me because I have the Legion of Boom cover behind me. And you have Cam Chancellor, obviously, and Earl Thomas, too, at safety, and Quandre Diggs, who I think has done a damn good job at safeties over the last couple of years. Jamal Adams, I know some people are like, but he's done a damn good job with defensive backs, and he has done a damn good job this season. It's kind of bullshit that he's not a finalist. Anyway, what else do we have to talk about? Oh, yeah. Take a listen to this audio. This is Deebo Samuel, San Francisco 49ers wide receiver. The Philadelphia Eagles and the 49ers are going to play each other in the NFC Championship game on Sunday. And Deebo was asked about the horrors of playing in front of a Philadelphia crowd.
We know it's going to be loud.
Let me play that one more time. The audio's down. Technical difficulties, as always. It's on brand at this point.
We know it's going to be loud, but no stadium is as loud as ours. But at the end of the day, they're at home, NFC Championship. They're going to be all riled up, and it don't really too much. We don't really too much feed into all that. We put the pads on and just go to work.
We put the pads on and just go to work. Okay, the first part of that is bullshit, right? Where Deebo Samuel says no crowd is as loud as San Francisco's, but I think you guys should keep this in mind when it comes to the NFC Championship game. And there's a little bit of bullshit involved in this article too. But on Wednesday, both Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan said that the team used the Thursday night road game in December against the Seahawks as advanced preparation for an eventual playoff game at Philadelphia. It sounds like bullshit when you hear it, right? Because that's such a long time ago. You didn't know that the 49ers were definitively going to make the playoffs at that point during the season. Anyway, we'll do the same thing we did that week. So he means in terms of actual week preparation that, okay, well, this is some of the stuff that we did to get ready for crowd noise. That was huge because that was our first game really all year, that it was important, and Brock hadn't had experience with it. So it was great to have that, especially with us going to Philly. I remember I was talking about that week, and we needed that. We needed that rep in case we ended up in the NFC Championship game at Philly, and we got that, and we're very fortunate that we did. And I feel we're good to go. He knows what to expect. He knows how we do. And we'll give him reps at it all week, but he got it ready on just a Wednesday when he played Thursday. So I feel like it won't be an issue this week, so they're going to crank up the music in practice. He's right. Seattle is louder. And I've never been to an Eagles game, but I can quite confidently tell you that Seahawks fans are the loudest. And I feel like they bring it on a more regular basis than Philadelphia sports fans. I think Philadelphia sports fans are good, and I do think that they can be extremely loud. But I feel like Eagles fans' reputation is largely based off of fan experience, not player experience. The Eagles crowd is just as likely to turn on its own team as it is likely to get under the skin of a team that they hate. And Philadelphians are also unique in this. Philadelphians let hate fester in a way that very few other cities can pull off. I think Boston could give them a run for their money. But if the Eagles were playing the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, I would be thinking to myself, the Cowboys are going to have a really tough time. Eagles fans hate the Cowboys probably more than any fan base in the NFL. And that's saying something because Washington fans hated them for a while. Giants fans hated them for a while. And, of course, the vast majority of fans across the league hate the Dallas Cowboys. But it's a different level with Philadelphia. But since it's Philadelphia, San Francisco, I don't buy into the idea that Philadelphia's home field advantage is going to be all that much. We heard that during the fucking World Series, too. Philadelphia fans really bring it. They're 18th in fucking attendance during the regular season. They didn't give a shit about a team that lost 13-20 down the stretch. They jump back on the bandwagon. They go on a magical run. They had some fun, but they were acting like it's going to be so tough for the Houston Astros to go to Philadelphia and play against the fucking Phillies. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here with that. That was a load of bullshit. Philadelphia, I get it. Oh, they throw batteries. They booed Michael Irvin when he was injured and paralyzed. They boo Santa Claus. Oh, wow, it's so intimidating. But Philadelphia fans did not provide any edge against an Astros team that maybe hasn't been through as much as people would have liked because of the pandemic the year after the sign-stealing scandal came out. But during that year, Philadelphia fans, I feel like during that World Series, didn't know what was going on over the course of the whole year, baseball-wise. And then all of a sudden they show up late and they're like, yeah, we're going to intimidate the Astros. Well, in that year where the Astros, sorry, I'm talking all over myself right now. There's banging fucking going on next door. It's been like a 2-month experience. That year, it would have been nice, I think, for a lot of fans across sports if the Astros had actually played in stadiums that had fans in them. Pandemic, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to get political on that front. It didn't happen. But Astros fans have been true tested. That is for sure. I think they would admit to you that during that playoff series between the Astros and Mariners, that was the loudest place that they played in. I mean, they said it. Ryan Presley even said it. It was louder than Philadelphia. Philadelphia fans are put on a pedestal for reasons that have to do with the fan of another team experience. It has nothing to do with the actual home field advantage that they provide. Go back in time. Think about some of the other NFC Championship games that the Eagles went to. Remember when the Eagles were the dominant power of the NFC but kept on coming up short? They lost a home playoff game in the NFC Championship game to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lost a home playoff game in the NFC Championship game to the fucking Carolina Panthers and Jake goddamn Delhomme. Are you kidding me? This is a team that, sure, has had some great years, but the home field advantage, where was it? Oh, but we got a loud crowd. Philadelphia. It's overplayed. Just wanted to get that off of my chest. Also wanted to get this off of my chest, and this is a tweet that came out last night. It is courtesy of at James D. Grambo. Let's start some food wars. Okay, well, I'll start a food war for you. Crab Rangoon is dog shit. Crab Rangoon. Fucking awful. Please explain who thought this up. Let's put cream cheese inside a fried noodle with crab in it. Why cream cheese? Disgusting. Cream cheese is gross. Cream cheese frosting, not so bad. Cream cheese, though, ew, gross. I went to an awesome Chinese food restaurant a couple of weeks ago. I had crab rangoon for the first time. It's the only thing at that awesome Chinese restaurant, Duck and Bao, that I hated. And I know this was authentic Chinese food. It was so fucking good. The duck. Oh my God, Peking duck is so good. Duck is the best bird, I think. Chicken, turkey can be good, but duck pound for pound always delivers. I bit into it and I couldn't finish it. And I've become a lot less picky in my day. But crab rangoon is fucking awful. People got mad at me for bringing this up. Sorry. Who the fuck thought it was a good idea to put cream cheese in a fried noodle with crab in it? Someone from Philadelphia? Does sound like big cream cheese. What is it? Philadelphia's Best, the cream cheese brand that they have that people buy all the time. Ugh. And look, I'm a little picky when it comes to certain things. I don't like cheese, so that's a big part of this. I don't think cheese and fish belong anywhere near each other. I don't like chocolate that much, though it's actually been coming around to me. Someone bought me, as part of a Yankee swap deal or a white elephant gift thing, I ended up getting chocolate. And let's just say after a few beverages or other things, I thought, yeah, I'm kind of hungry. Let's eat the chocolate. The chocolate wasn't bad. But not a cheese not a cheese guy. Not a chocolate guy. And also, not a banana guy, but I think it's because I have an allergic reaction to them. My throat always gets scratchy. I don't like eggs scrambled. I like them any other way but scrambled. And there's like this rubbery. It gets too rubbery when it gets cold with scrambled eggs. What the fuck is going on next door? Man, I hope they're done. They basically, the condo across the hallway from me, they just ripped out everything inside of it. And I just hear banging and hammers and drilling at all times. It's awful. And they leave the door open too. Close the fucking door. And the other controversial food take I have, I think ham is terrible. I don't know why, because I like bacon. But there's something about ham, it's just, I don't know. Like, I like pork. We're still talking about pig here, but something about ham, I don't like it. So there you go. Those are my controversial food takes. Largobot says quail goes hard. Oh, look, it's Jake Asman. Hey, Jake. Jake is on Jake's YouTube channel is big. Master Jets fan, Jake Asman. Paul, you look 10 years younger, clean shaven. Ha ha ha. I love it. I was talking about overrated fan bases a little bit earlier. I think Jets fans are underrated for the in-stadium experience. And here are some of the good ones, I think, across the NFL as far as, like, loud places. Because Philadelphia is put on a pedestal it does not deserve to be. I mentioned Seattle a little bit earlier. I like the Jets. I've always found Jets fans and Jets crowds to be loud. And I always felt like they were able to have an effect on Patriots-Jets games whenever I watched them growing up. I think Denver has an awesome home field advantage. And it's not just because of the altitude. It's because when these guys get fucking going, and if they get under a quarterback's skin, all of a sudden, you know what you'll see? Like, they'll start to get rattled by just mere chance of incomplete. It's sort of like what Texas A&M baseball fans do with the ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, ball 4. They will, after every single incomplete pass, say incomplete. I would lose my mind if that happened to me on a regular basis. I really would. On YouTube, Reflect the Sun says hi. Hi, Reflect the Sun. Largobot, Jake Asman, come on to the Twitch chat, Jakey Takey. I do like our ESPN 97.5 Twitch chat that joins me on this. And on youtube.com/PaulGallant, you can also join as well. Anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap up. Do I have anything else to get to today's show? Oh, one last thing. I would be remiss if I didn't do that. This is almost fan service. So, look, on the radio show today at the very end, I started absolutely shredding Jim Boeheim, head coach of Syracuse University basketball. Hang on a second. Let me...
It's the second game you lost by 4 points in the span.
So, look. Jim Boeheim has won a national title, has, I think, the second most wins in college basketball history, and has been to, 4, 5 Final Fours? Great resume, right? But he's a dick. He's a total dick. Always has been a dick. Gets away with a lot in Syracuse from what I understand. His basketball program has gotten away with a lot from what I understand. Google Eric Devendorf. Google Bernie Fine. Google Jim Boeheim runs over person. among many other things. Syracuse basketball, when I was on campus from 2000 through 2011, had some of its best years. Also had some of its craziest shit performed by student athletes. I don't like Boeheim. I think Boeheim has single-handedly run the Syracuse basketball program into the ground. And just because you're good in the tournament does not mean you're doing a good job as a program. I remember talking to Doug Gottlieb at a Super Bowl many years back, and I asked him, like, come on, man, like, why does Jim Boeheim still have a job? And, of course, Jim Boeheim would take Syracuse to another Final Four a couple of years later. But Gottlieb gave me this incredulous look, like, what are you fucking talking about? Well, there comes a time when somebody loses their fastball, and Boeheim has clearly lost his fastball. And then he's got the gall to go talk to some poor student reporter at Syracuse University, the best broadcasting school there is, though Jake Asman's Ithaca College is also very good and slept on. That was a school I almost went to. If I hadn't gotten into Syracuse, and I wasn't 100% sure I would have gotten in, I would have applied. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten into Ithaca College. I wanted to play D3 football at the same time as doing student journalism. I don't know if that would have worked out so well. But Jim Boeheim, right here, to a student reporter who asks, I think, a perfectly fair question.
It's the second game you lost by 4 points in the span of 8 days. Why can't your team close out the games?
We're done.
Oh, we're done. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. It's a very fair question. Oh, my God. What is happening next door? Can you guys hear that? Wait, let's turn up the mic. Can you hear that? Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry, that probably blew out some of y'all's eardrums. Eardrums? What am I, Squirrely Dan from Letterkenny? Anyway, Jim Boeheim. I'm not a fan. Get him out. Largo Butt says, orgy going on next door. No, they're just ripping that place to shreds. Largo Butt also said, Boeheim's resume, one body, harbored and defended a diddler, defended a chick beater, yeah, that's Devendorf, covered up positive drug tests to get a championship, oversaw rampant academic misconduct, one level, one failure to promote an atmosphere of compliance charge. Yeah. Yep. Reflect the Sun. I was late, but my 2 cents, yes. Pete Carroll should be, and John Schneider, GM of the year. I mean, wow, that Rusty alone, but Nwosu, yeah, Nwosu had a great season. What a, like, red zone destroyer of worlds he was. The Seahawks really did a good job this year. I apologize for not being as on top of them this season as in years past. Last year, obviously, I didn't have a job, and I was kind of directionless, and I didn't really want to watch them every single week because it was making me bitter. This week, though, I had no excuse. And next year, I promise I will actually be watching Seahawks games on the regular. I still think that the Texans rebuild is going to take some time. So I think what I'm going to try to do next year is get Sunday ticket, watch Seahawks games, and watch Texans games every single Sunday and do a little blog about both. Yeah, that is loud. I hope this is almost done. Anyway, big thanks to everybody who joined me for today's Loud in the Background Gallant Says podcast. We do this thing every single weekday, 1 to 1:30 Central Time at twitch.tv/Gallant Says, youtube.com/Paul Gallant if you want to interact with it live. But you can also listen in podcast form on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Rate, review, tell a friend, subscribe, roast me, whatever. Every single little bit of support means a lot, and I love you guys that join me in the chat section. We'll be back at it tomorrow, 1 o'clock, and of course I got my radio show from 10 to noon on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. So long, farewell, have yourselves a